It's an open label study with 25 milligrams. And it builds on a lot of the great work that was done by NYU, by UCLA, and Hopkins in this area with this patient population. But it's really to look at feasibility of doing this in a cancer center so that people who are treated for cancer could also receive care for their psychological aspects of this. And that's what's so exciting about it.
George Goldsmith joins us again. He's the CEO of COMPASS Pathways PLC, trades on NASDAQ under the symbol CMPS. George, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet, George. Always a pleasure. Okay, George, we have to start off with the ugly elephant in the room. Net loss for 3 months ended June 30th was $17.5 million or 44 cents per share. What is the prognosis for that going out in the next 12 months?
Well, I can't share a prognosis with you on that. We haven't disclosed that, but obviously you want us to be spending, everybody wants us to be spending money right now on research because we are not in the market. Everything that we're doing is investing in research, the highest quality research. And so the more we spend, the more likely we have to generate the evidence that's needed to really advance this field.
Sure. Well, so you follow basically in the footsteps of the normal biotech drug development company. Is that the right analog to use when looking at COMPASS Pathways?
As a biotech, for right now it is, but I think that, as we move forward, we're going to have very strong technology, therapist optimization tools, etc. But right now, all eyes, as they should be, are on the end of our phase 2B trial at the end of the year when we'll be reporting out. We completed recruiting actually over our desired number of 216. We had 233 people in the trial. Last patients were into that trial on the 8th of July, and now we're busy waiting for people to complete the 12 weeks and then get back to us in terms of reporting out by the end of the year on all of our data analysis for top-line results. So that's really our core focus right now.
Sure. And what is the target outcome of this trial?
The target outcome of this trial is to learn a variety of things. First and foremost, regulators require that you do a dose ranging. So which dose is most effective, most safe, most well tolerated in the population of treatment-resistant depression. And so that's the first thing that we're trying to do, is to determine, is a 25 milligram dose better in terms of safety and efficacy combined for this patient population than a 1 milligram dose? And is a 10 milligram dose better than a 1 milligram dose after we assess the 25? The goal is to simply figure out what is the dose that we're going into our phase 3 pivotal program with. That's the core focus that we have had in this study. And, we have different designs that we've been reviewing with regulators for phase 3, but it all really focuses on what is that dose and how effective is it in terms of not only an initial response to 3 weeks, but a long-term follow-up, relatively long-term of 12 weeks. And that's what we're taking out of this study.
Okay, that's interesting to me because I have a chronic case of treatment-resistant euphoria, which I believe is induced by a regular exposure to psilocybin, among other things. And it's my experience that different dosages will have different effects on the same person at different times based on biochemical makeup at that time, among other things. So is that something that you incorporate in your study sort of structure, that there's an accommodation for different dosages are going to have different effects at different times? Or have you zeroed in on what a person has to do to get more of a consistent response out of a similar dosage?
Well, I think we're surrounded by lots of individual case reports, and this is the whole problem with the field. We have breathless enthusiasm based on personal experience, which may or may not generalize, and certainly wouldn't be the basis of making decisions to take vulnerable patient populations and put them on any kind of medicine, particularly when they're so vulnerable and feel that nothing has helped them. So our focus is really on the science, and what we're doing is providing a very consistent perspective and way of supporting people across 10 countries, 22 sites. It's a blinded study, so we don't know if someone's getting 1, 10, or 25. And our job is to just make sure that it's delivered in the most consistent fashion so that we can then assess which dose seemed to have the safest, most effective. Now, your point about different experiences in different times, again, that's all we're doing is a single dose for these patients. So we're not looking at that, can't look at that given the design of the study.
Okay, so that's something for the future. So the preliminary data is very promising. You've been granted now 8 patents. So what exactly has been patented? I'm really curious about that.
So what's been patented are quite a number of things, actually. The core part of how we manufactured this to be stable and available across the world, right? So what's so different about the approach of developing a medicine is that you need to have a stable drug product that's the same anywhere. The doses are the same, et cetera. In developing that, what we focused in on was how do we develop that in a scalable fashion to commercial standards and do that. Now, in that process, we discovered quite a number of problems that were present in the prior approaches to synthesizing and scaling. We address those, and when you solve a problem, that's a basis for intellectual property of how you solve the problem. So there are a whole host of things that we've done. One is just the whole issues around manufacture. Another, which is of the actual drug product, the synthetic psilocybin, but then you have to get it into human beings. And that's a whole different set of things of how you mix it into a capsule so that the dosing is exactly whatever it needs to be, it's replicable, and that the medicine is stable over all the 3 years that we've tested it so far, so that we can say reliably, here's the shelf life. All of these things take a lot of work, and all of the work that's done that's new that we've developed is sitting in our patents, including how do we apply this form of psilocybin that we've created in different conditions that we're doing trials on. So it's a very broad estate looking at manufacturing, application, data of indications from preclinical work we've done. We're the largest research facility in this area and have been doing a huge amount of work looking at new indications in preclinical. So all of these things are basis of discovery and IP protection.
Mm-hmm. I also read that you had initiated a study, a study had been initiated at the Maryland Oncology Hematology Department on COMP360. What is the thesis on the use of psilocybin for treating cancers?
So we're not treating cancer. What we're treating is the depression and the anxiety. It's mostly depression, sometimes with what experts call comorbid anxiety. People are depressed and anxious. About 74% of patients have both of those conditions. And we're looking at specifically a patient population who also have a cancer diagnosis. And quite often that's distressing for people, understandably. And what we're looking to do is, if possible, to reduce the depression and anxiety that people feel when they confront that. Now, it's not just about the anxiety and depression. Actually, some people are so tied up in the depression and anxiety that they can't even seek the treatment for the cancer because they don't want to know more. We've had cases in this study of people who've been diagnosed with cancer. They can have a surgery to actually remove it, and it's very early. But they're petrified about acknowledging that that's the case. They don't seek treatment. And what we're really looking at is, can we have people engaging more in their lives, but also in the treatments that they need through the use of psilocybin. It's an open label study, but what's really different about it's the first open label study where we're doing preparation, administration, and integration in groups of 4. And this is, I think, a really important. Every person has their own therapist. It's one-on-one, done during the actual administration of psilocybin therapy, but people are prepared and they come and integrate together. So we're looking at how this happens. It's an early stage study. It's an open label study with 25 milligrams, and it builds on a lot of the great work that was done by NYU, by UCLA, and Hopkins in this area with this patient population. But it's really to look at feasibility of doing this in a cancer center so that people who are treated for cancer could also receive care for their psychological aspects of this. And that's what's so exciting about this. It's a beautiful facility this group built. We'll be reporting out on the team there. It's an independent study that we're providing medicine for. They'll be reporting out later this year as well.
Okay. Well, that's great, George. I really appreciate the update. It's a fascinating undertaking you guys are doing. I look forward to speaking to you again in the future, and thank you for your time today.
Hey, thanks so much. Appreciate it.